The Abuja Archdiocesan Justice Development and Peace Commission, Jdpc, has launched an advocacy campaign hashtag to galvanize action for effectively countering of trafficking in persons in Nigeria. We bring you the report.
In an aid to end human trafficking, the Justice, Development and Peace Commission, Jdpc, in collaboration with National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, and strengthening civil advocacy and local engagement scale, has organized a press briefing to launch advocacy campaign hashtags. Goodwill messages were sent from Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigeria Union of Journalists, and Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities. The program, which was held at Holy Trinity, Maitama, launched 3 hashtags. Hashtag Fund NAPTIP, hashtag Say No to Human Trafficking, and hashtag Confiscate Trafficking Proceeds.
Of trafficking in persons is something that involves everybody. Just about anybody can fall victim of human trafficking. It has never been a question of consent. Trafficking is deeply rooted in exploitation, and this is something that we stand heavily against. What Scale does is to work with local partners, including Jdpc Abuja here and our cluster members, to demand for accountability, to push for reforms, policy implementation reforms, and also action following commitments from people. We're also strengthening local capacities to be able to do this through our advocacy clusters. As I speak to you, the project have made imprint in about 30 states in Nigeria. We have local partners who are working across different teams, including trafficking in persons. We're also working in the area of sexual gender-based violence. We're also working in ending child early and forced marriage. And we are pushing for reforms in the civic space. We're entering an election year. There's a lot of trends. And we want a situation where civil society are able to make their voice registered and heard. So we're engaging with partners at other level. And we're also strengthening organizational development capacity of organizations that we're working with to be able to do all of this. So in essence, this is what this Scale project is about. There's nothing we can do without sustainability and local ownership. We really understand that fact, and that is why we are working very closely with local partners in Nigeria to be able to push for these reforms.
In his remarks, the Auxiliary Bishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Dr. Anselm Umoren, called on every sector of the country to fully fund NAPTIP.
Is implementing the Scale project, strengthening civil advocacy and local engagement, designed in line with countering trafficking in persons component objective. The advocacy issue to be addressed cut across increased funding of the local government agency, NAPTIP, promoting prosecution of traffickers and addressing inadequate service provision for survivors of trafficking in Nigeria, especially through the activation of the Victims of Trafficking Trust Fund. The strategies include capacity strengthening for members, advocacy engagement, campaign and public awareness to achieve our goal.
Representing Mr. Arinze Orakwe of NAPTIP, Mr. Desmond Garba said, human trafficking has a negative effect on the society.
Venom and bitterness, because there are grave consequences to human trafficking. Human trafficking undermines human capital development potentials of the nation. And we're all looking at a nation that will grow beyond what we have seen it now. And then human trafficking also fears irregular migration. Human trafficking undermines the main essence of human being. Human trafficking is degrading and dishumanizing. Human trafficking, the kind of human trafficking is clandestine, and most cases it also diversifies into other crime. Because if you look at human trafficking, you discover that the profit, the risk is low, and the profit is very high.
The chairman Jdpc, Sir Damian Dudu, assured that the victims will be put at the center of the prosecution and will benefit from proceeds confiscated from traffickers.
It's a disgrace to this nation. The fight, the contribution, the resources must be a partnership again between government, the corporate world, and individuals who think this is a worthy cause. And any human being, any Nigerian with a conscience will concede, will agree, will indeed pontificate that the fight against human trafficking is a very worthy cause. So the time has come, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for us to go beyond government and appeal to the oil companies, appeal to the insurance companies, appeal to private enterprise, appeal to individuals who have the capacity and the means and the network and the leverage to help bring resources to NAPTO. That is the way we can win this fight. In all spheres of life in this country, government is complaining about the paucity of funds. If we focus entirely on government funding NAPTO will continue to underperform. So, my appeal to all of you who are involved in this effort now is for us to touch the conscience of the nation. Anybody who is a victim, one person who is a victim of human trafficking, makes all of us victims because of our common humanity. It is that common humanity that makes this such an evil crime. In my view, it stands on the same pedestal with slavery. So let us get our loins. Let us look at our strategies. Let us review our approach and say, has the time come for us now to enlist the support of private sector in the fight against human trafficking? My intervention is supposed to focus on confiscating trafficking proceeds. Now, what does that entail? The clear implication of this is that a judicial process has played out. Someone has been charged to court. He has been convicted. And obviously, government or the prosecutorial agencies have been able to lay their hands on the fact money, the big money has made from trafficking.
At the end of the briefing, there was a question and answer session. Some of the organizers and guests spoke with CTV News.
This will jumpstart, this will kick off a moral awakening, a spirit of revulsion completely against this evil, so that everyone will realize that the fight to bring trafficking to an end is not just for government, it's not just for NAPTO, it's not just for police. All of us, in different ways, in our own ways, can be part of the effort that in the short run, all those guilty of this crime are behind bars and the victims are compensated and reintegrated in society, and in the long run, to eradicate completely human trafficking as a blight on our society.
And we're still going back to the fact that the people we put in government, we must take responsibility for putting them. And unless we begin to put people that we know are competent and are able to do what they are supposed to do, not for their own benefit, then we will not move forward. And so Nigerians must get to a point where they realize that whoever gets in there, gets in because we've allowed them to get in. So let's take responsibility for whatever action we do. And that's why we've been encouraging people, especially during this registration, go out and register and vote and wait for your vote to be counted and announced. It's not enough to sit at home and not do your responsibility and then blame the government. If you do what you're supposed to do, then bad people will not be there. So that's my only advice to people. We have opportunity to redeem ourselves and make things work, and we must take that responsibility seriously. Evidence-driven.
So we need information because trafficking is a very dynamic crime. The trends are changing, the patterns are changing, traffickers are changing their tactics. So we also have to modify the response so that it can be in tune with what is current. So we need to invest in research to have the necessary evidence to carry out information, awareness raising around trafficking in persons. Secondly, we have to broaden the partnership base. And broadening the partnership base does not only stop at involving stakeholders. We need to go down to the grassroots. A bottom-to-top approach might work better. Let us engage the traditional rulers, let us engage religious groups, let us engage women groups, let us engage youth groups at the community level. Why do I say that? Because trafficking is a local crime. It starts from the source community and it trickles up. Traffickers are feeding on vulnerabilities and exploitation. So we need to go back to the grassroots and broaden our engagement and bring it up to the national level to expand the scope. Then thirdly, I think there have been a lot of gap in terms of the prosecution. So how can we address the prosecution gaps as far as the issue of trafficking in person is concerned? We need evidence. We need evidence. We need to build capacity of the justice sector. Judges have to be trained to know what is available, what are the rules, what are the extant rules as far as trafficking in persons is concerned. So that if we have conviction of cases, we have maximum sentencing regime. Traffickers are adequately punished for their crimes. Their assets are confiscated, and not just confiscated, it is applied to the rehabilitation and the support of victims. So if we have evidence, if we deepen collaboration looking at the grassroots, and if we improve prosecution of trafficking by engaging judiciary and the justice sector and the security sector, all working in synergy, I think it will help to broaden the scope. For me, money is the last thing. We talk of funding, it is so important, but there are other things that we need to consider too. Like for instance, if we engage the traditional rulers, they can develop bylaws that will speak against those harmful practices that drive to people trafficking. So Nigeria is so insecure, there's high unemployment rate, so we need to really have evidence.
In Abuja, Claire Ijoma reporting for CTV.